This is the I Heart My Life show. Welcome to the I Heart My Life show. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. Dana Winchester, and I personally go to her Winchester Institute for chiropractic work and body work. So I wanted to have her on just to teach us a little bit more about chiropractic, why it's so important, the power of it, how it can transform your body, your mind, your life. And so today's conversation is not only an educational one, it's also a personal one because Dana, you and your team have helped me so much. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your backstory before we get into what chiropractic work actually is? Because I know you have this incredible company, incredible team. Obviously, I know as an entrepreneur what it takes to create something like that. So can you take us back and share a little bit more about how you got started?
Absolutely. I would love to. So 20 years ago, I opened the Winchester Institute. Actually, this April is our 20-year anniversary, so a really special time for us. I went to Miami of Ohio for my undergrad degree, and then I went to Palmer College in Davenport, Iowa for my doctorate in chiropractic. And from there, opened the Winchester Institute. And in doing so, I wanted to create this space and place for our community that was extremely holistic and really addressed the whole patient. So I wanted to lead by our method of chiropractic called Gonstead, and that's the way that we adjust the spine. And I also wanted to be able to offer other holistic, healthy services that can help patients achieve total well-being.
So amazing.
Thank you.
And I'm curious to know back then, 20 years ago, number one, were there many women in this area starting businesses, especially in the field that you're in, or were you kind of a pioneer?
Oh, that's a great question. So I definitely think things have gotten more competitive, probably not in my field, but in many. You can scroll through social media or just see how many businesses are out there, competitive businesses, nail salons, hair salons, just so many gyms, boutique gyms, big gyms. There's so many different dermatology offices. Like a lot of stuff is happening, and maybe it's our community is growing so much, the greater Columbus area or, Dublin itself. I would say statistics definitely prove that there are less women in chiropractic. I think one advantage I have being a woman in my field is just a different take on treatment, probably a different vibe in the treatment room. Also, my technique has had to work with my size and my strength being a female. So I believe finessed my style of adjusting the spine and any extremity joint to take advantage of, not being maybe as big or as strong as some of my male colleagues.
Hmm. And what sort of mindset work did you have to do to be able to start such a big organization and company like the Winchester Institute? I know that obviously it's grown over the years, but were you like a natural entrepreneur or did you have to develop a new way of thinking in order to achieve such a big dream?
Definitely grow with time. So I did not start at this size, of course. And over time, you have to take those risks to add the services and the personnel to help you be able to offer those different things to the community and to be able to service people properly. So, really, I would say that it takes time to grow into where we are today. And I want to keep growing for sure.
Did you have to create any mindset shifts
Oh,
or
you're constantly doing that as an entrepreneur who has dreams and goals of continued growth. Watching our success through the years, pretty much year after year, we meet new benchmarks and new goals as a company. So you get wiser, you get smarter. Oftentimes, when things come up, difficulties, bumps, hiccups, I will maybe have a previous experience that I can correlate the current concern to. And I only know through the trials and the tribulations and the hardships and the difficult times, maybe a better way to address the issue currently. Yeah.
yeah. And what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome as a business owner?
Gosh, the first thing that comes to mind was COVID. That period of time was really challenging, and no one could prepare anyone for that. It was a really difficult time. I had a team that I needed to take care of. I was trying to make sure that we were all, as protected as we needed to be or could be or knew to be at that time with the virus. And, how do we remain open and able to care for patients? We were denoted as an essential healthcare service. So we did remain open entirely throughout the COVID period. It was very, very difficult working with the team and, talking to them about a return date and what that might look like and how we could slowly ramp business back up again and our services back up again when the virus became something that we knew more about and people felt more safe to get out into the public
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
How long were you out of the office?
So we did not close. We remained open
Okay.
the entire time, but fewer patients, of course, would come
Yeah.
in, very scared and fearful of, being out into the community and in the public. So we just kind of had to wait and continue to let people know that we were still here. We were here to help.
Yeah, I can only imagine because I know you have a big team and being able to navigate that. I mean, it adds like a completely different muscle and level of experience to you as a business owner and, the founder and someone who obviously cares so much about her clients and patients.
Yes, I felt like I quickly became an HR guru and learned a lot about the legal side of this and, for how to furlough a team member. I've never had to do that before. So that was a very stressful period, yes, in business ownership.
I think that so much of, the leader and the founder's role in business is like being willing to learn different things and take on different roles as needed. Because many of us, regardless of the industry, we don't start doing the thing that we're doing to be a jack of all trades or Jill of all trades. But like you have to learn so much and you have to learn so much. Like one of my mentors calls it building the plane as you're flying.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to be willing to just like sink your teeth into anything and to learn stuff that completely feels like it's outside of the box or outside of the scope of your everyday and the reason why you started. But the most successful people I know, they're willing to take on different roles and learn different things every single day.
Absolutely. Super important and being able to take those risks. And like you and I talked about briefly before we started this morning, learning from those lessons. Like, so what can
Yeah.
I take from this? It was maybe a negative experience for a customer or a patient or, something that happened with an insurance carrier. How can we do better from that experience? What can we put into play that will help us moving forward?
Beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about chiropractic and your methodology. So I'll be the first to admit I didn't know much about chiropractic up until about 2 years ago after I had my daughter. My husband went to see a chiropractor when we were living in Austin, Texas, and had a really great experience and started to tell me that I needed to see somebody because I was having back pain and just a lot of stuff from being pregnant. So can you tell us a little bit, like high level overview, what is chiropractic?
Yes, great. So chiropractic is the means of locating and addressing areas in the spine that are not functioning well. So, through our expertise and our skill set and our training, we are able to locate those areas in the spine or maybe in an extremity joint, so a shoulder, knee, ankle, or wrist, and then to alleviate stress in that motion segment or with that vertebrae in the spine or the extremity joint in order to help it function better. And when we say function better, we want that area to have better mechanical movement patterns. We want it to fluidly behave better, differently than it has been. That is leading to maybe inflammation, pain, or nerve pressure for a patient.
Mm. And so is that how you would know that chiropractic might be the fit for you is if you have some sort of pressure or pain in your body?
Ooh, really good question, Emily. So I believe that, and I think what we know an adjustment does, it doesn't just have to be about belief, but every patient, every person, young and aging, can benefit from chiropractic care. So when we allow the body to function optimally, the brain is able to better communicate with a target cell. So whether that target cell be into the wrist or hand or, headed to the digestive tract, or about like lower lumbar or middle back spinal motion. It improves the way the brain sees its parts. So when we adjust, we're really looking to improve the whole health of our patients. And we actually have some, I'd say newer, maybe in the past 8 to 10 years, some great research that, the general lay public doesn't necessarily know about, that when we adjust, the prefrontal cortex of the brain becomes stimulated in a very positive way after a manipulation. And so, that lets us know that there is this greater nervous system side effect to treatment. So to go back to your question, no, I do not want patients just seeking care for pain. Do we see a lot of patients for pain or a functional problem or a limp that they've developed, or, a stiffness in a joint or an ankle or maybe post-injury? Yes, we do. But I would also like, number one, those patients to continue care, even when they feel wonderful, maybe on more of a maintenance or a wellness or a preventive schedule. But I'd also love to have a new patient coming into the practice who just wants to remain healthy and well and is already symptom free. Because if you remember, the true definition of health is complete chemical, social, and physical well-being. It's not merely the absence of a symptom or a disease process. So we want to stay one step ahead and work on prevention.
That's such a great way of describing it. And I think so often, the pain, it's a signal for us to do something different. And a lot of times, I'm a coach and work with a lot of clients in the entrepreneur space, but also in personal development. And they come to me like during some, big upheaval or something isn't working or they want something to change. And then, we get that result. And sometimes they forget the thing that got them there. And so they're no longer doing the practice or reading the books or listening to the podcast or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wonder why they start sliding backwards. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, to your point, it's the same thing with our body, just maintaining that thing that we've been doing that's helped us get that result and recognizing that it's also about preventing future issues.
Absolutely. And that comes from education within the office too, making sure that we're teaching patients that from day one, that yes, our immediate goal is to get you out of pain and to improve your quality of life and your quality of functional motion. But I want to see you ongoing after this. I want to see you to keep you well and to continue to work on your total health.
Yeah. And one of your massage therapists mentioned to me recently that we have to train your body to know, I think he said, what's normal or what is like a positive way of functioning so that it continues to remember that and it becomes a common way of being.
Yeah.
I might be butchering that, but can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how does the body start to recognize a new way of operating or a new way of functioning through the work that you do?
Yes. So it kind of goes back to when we manipulate, we understand that, especially the research shows too, that if the manipulation is done in such a skilled manner that the practitioner or provider, which would be myself, is able to truly identify what really needs to be adjusted. Because especially here at the Winchester Institute, we are not adjusting areas of the spine that don't need to be adjusted. So research tells us that when we adjust in a skilled manner to a segment or a motion segment in the spine that is moving poorly, maybe is not moving enough, or is creating a stressful environment with its motion, we get a much better outcome from care when it comes to how the nervous system, the central nervous system, or the brain reacts to treatment. So when we adjust, we know we are enhancing the way the brain is communicating with, the medical term or clinical term is the innervated cells or tissues. So, the brain communicates down the spinal cord through a spinal nerve root that then goes to an organ, a cell, or a tissue. And so we know that the adjustment enhances that communication.
So amazing. Yeah. I think a lot of people think about chiropractic work and they're thinking like somebody's going to crack my neck or, adjust my back or whatever it is. And they're forgetting what's actually happening with the entire nervous system.
Very much so. We still have patients and physicians in the community that talk about treatment from manipulative treatment or chiropractic care from a means of spinal alignment. And while we are highly interested in the alignment of each patient and the way their spine looks on X-ray and what their true diagnosis is, the primary goal is often not realigning the spine or trying to make it perfectly in alignment. We're actually trying to help it function better. So everything goes back to that word function. Like, how does the spine move? And if it's moving well there, then we should expect the nervous system to be able to speak to its target cell and the target cell back to the brain.
So beautiful. Thank you for describing that. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Before we get back to the interview, I wanted to share a little something I think you'll find valuable. If you're looking for more clarity on what you want in life or feel like something is holding you back, I've created a free Dream Life Guide just for you. It's a step-by-step resource to help you get clear on your goals and break through any mindset blocks that might be in the way. You can grab it at iheartmylife.com/guide. And as a bonus, I've also included a private podcast feed to go along with the guide to give you even more value and support. So head over to iheartmylife.com/guide to download it for free. All right, now back to the conversation. So I'm curious to know, what sort of issues do you see with your patients coming in over the last 5 to 10 years that maybe you didn't see when you started? For example, I know that the doctor that I see at your practice always talks about people being on their phone, especially, me being on the computer all the time. Like, he can tell in my body that I'm sitting a lot, like I'm just, staying in one place. So what sort of issues do you see maybe that pertain to the use of technology or something else?
Yes, exactly that. Technology problems, poor posture, tech neck, all day, every patient. When I graduated approximately 20 years ago, we did not talk about tech neck or technology neck and the effects of that, as far as how it can change the way the ear drains, and common problems that patients are now reporting with ear issues, drainage problems, tinnitus or a buzzing or tingling in the ears, dizziness, unexplained vertigo, jaw problems, shoulder issues, headaches. And then the things that we definitely know are associated with that loss of normal natural curve in our neck due to technology and poor posture, is degenerative discs, more arthritis, more nerve pinching situations in the neck and upper back, and dysfunction in the shoulder. It's a much greater problem. In fact, we now have the research that helps us understand that a loss in normal neck curve or a tech neck can actually lead to poor lymphatic flow and functioning. So we have lymph nodes in our neck, in the front and the back and the base of the skull. And we find that they're not functioning optimally with these reversed straight neck curves or straight neck curves. We also know that it can put pressure on the top of the lung. So we don't even breathe as well when we have this poor posture, and also a reduced blood flow and oxygen flow to the brain.
Wow. And so for anyone listening like myself, where a lot of your work is on the computer or using the phone, obviously people can come to see doctors like yourself, but is there anything that we could be doing in our everyday life to improve our posture, to reduce all of the symptoms that you just described?
Yes, put those darn phones down. But I know that's not always the most realistic piece of advice or instruction to a patient. But, maybe instead of holding the phone down into a lap, or so that the head is in a state of flexion when we look into the phone, can be very helpful. So making sure that we are maybe only dropping the eyes down to a phone, or we're using an arm hand to bring the phone up to eye level a little bit more. And making sure we're using proper ergonomics when we're at our desks, choosing to not use a smaller laptop as a daily work device. We're using more of a desktop monitor, keyboard, full size instruments there. Patients are welcome to use like docking stations where their laptop just kind of clicks into those larger devices, allowing us to use proper ergonomics. And those are things that we teach patients alongside care here every day.
What about standing desks or having, those like little treadmills under your desk so that you can be walking while you're working? Is that helpful?
Absolutely. I think understanding how to use those tools is really important. We don't want a patient, standing all day either. So it's that opportunity to have variation in our positioning throughout the day that can be helpful. So a little bit of sitting and a little bit of standing with the right ergonomics and the right help and instruction there can make a big difference.
Yeah. And I'm curious to know your thoughts for women who are pregnant or even, postpartum. What are some of the most important things that they can do when it comes to working with a team like yours, and why does it matter?
Okay, so switching gears here, when we're talking about a pregnant patient, there is a lot of literature supporting the benefit of chiropractic care and the soft tissue services as well that we offer. And actually, over the weekend, I had just read a great article about why pregnant women should still be participating in resistance training. I think years back, the idea was that, during pregnancy, we shouldn't be picking up weight or using resistance tools. And we know differently now. We know it's important for our pregnant patients and for moms to be active and strong throughout their pregnancy, before and after. So there's a lot of great research supporting what we're doing for pregnant patients. We can help pregnant patients with sciatica and, pubic pain, round ligament discomfort during pregnancy. And we also have a really high success rate at being able to help a breech position baby. So we can actually help mom and dad get baby in the right position so that, they're more comfortable in a more natural position. And then mom is able to avoid more invasive procedures in order to have the baby.
Wow. And so do you recommend for pregnant women that they come once a month, or what is the suggested treatment for someone who is carrying a baby?
Yeah, that's a great question for me too, because here we really value this idea of individualized care. So while we may follow, standard guidelines to, like what does the textbook say we should be doing when a patient, presents with the sciatica and then on top of that is now pregnant. We do follow those guidelines, of course, but we also really look at the patient individually. So, making that decision based upon who's in front of us and what would be best for them at the time. I would say that in order to provide the clinical care that we are able to offer here, it does need to be obviously in person. There are lots of at-home instructions and lifestyle recommendations we can give our patients, but we do need people here to receive the service. So, it needs to be a commitment from the patient to want to get better.
Yeah. And I remember after giving birth, my husband's chiropractor in Austin was telling us that he could provide treatment for our little infant. So I'm curious to know, do you guys do that? Do you recommend chiropractic for babies as well?
Absolutely. So everyone that has a nervous system and a developing spine or a developed spine should be checked by a chiropractor. Yep, treatment should be skilled, individualized, and mindful.
And what are the benefits for a little baby to receive
Yeah,
that treatment?
would be no different than any other patient, right? It's identifying areas in the spine that might be provoking a stress. Common things that we will see infants and toddlers and younger children for are maybe gait issues, walking on their toes, favoritism. So developing, a crawl with only the right knee up over and over, or, only sitting to the right hip, or only nursing from one breast and not another, or bottle feeding from one direction and not any others. And the baby may demonstrate, discomfort for mom or dad in another position. And oftentimes it's the parents noticing these things like, hey, I think something is going on here a little more. Infants have very soft skulls. So oftentimes we might see a baby for, issues with the way that they're able to lay or how they're holding their neck or head in an effort of trying to find a place of comfort that they can't tell us. So we may see flattening of the skull in a way that we are able to help. We're able to help improve their neck, or what we call cervical area mobility, the way the skull or occiput moves on those first few neck bones, so that the baby is much more comfortable in all positions or a variety of positions and isn't laying to one side consistently, leading to that flattening.
That's so interesting. And I think it just kind of brings home your point and what we've talked about already so far, that it's not just about having an injury. It's about, treating the patient as a whole, regardless of their circumstance, and that anyone with a nervous system can benefit from the work that you do.
Very much so. Yep. That's the type of care and the type of practice that we really get into, is when a patient's really looking to focus and invest in themselves.
Yeah. And I know you're all about the holistic way of doing things as well. And it's not just the chiropractic work, but you also have other services like the massage services and trigger point therapy. Can you speak a little bit to all of those?
Yes. So again, like your previous question a while back, we talked about, like where did we start and where are we now and how did those things, come to be? Definitely services have been added with time. And that usually comes from a need. So paying attention to current research, how patients are presenting and what is out there that we could offer that can be helpful to them. We never want to dilute our core service offerings. But if we can offer something like, in the past couple of years, we've added dry needling. So we've gotten certifications and we're able to now offer that service to patients. And we offer, I would say, a complete array of soft tissue therapy. So we can do myofascial release, gua sha work on patients using instruments. We have, vibration tools in the clinic to use on soft tissue. Our team is skilled at personalized stretching and, active and passive work from a soft tissue place that can, really pair and complement the adjustment process.
Amazing. And I'm curious to know, so oftentimes people think the work that you just described, some of those treatments, even chiropractic, could be something that is more of a luxury versus a necessity. And I know that we've discussed this kind of ad nauseum today around why this is so important. But is there anything else you would say to people who have that mindset or that belief system about why this really matters? And also, how do you, move past that way of thinking?
Yeah, I think if we look time and time again at research done financially on healthcare, we see that individuals that invest in their health throughout younger years tend to spend less in their later years on healthcare. So I think that is something that people need to pay attention to. We know that if we invest now, we pay less later, and that, everything that we can do to take better care of ourselves and practice more of a holistic paradigm to true healthcare, not just chasing those symptoms like we've covered this morning, is really the best avenue that someone can take to, tackle this topic fully.
Yeah. And what is your personal wellness practice or routine?
So, definitely trying to practice what I preach. So, I do focus on quality sleep. I would say the thing I suffer with the most or fail at the most often is water. I think, sometimes maybe some fitness or healthcare professionals push a little too much water on patients at times, but I'm always that person who has like a full water thing with me and it's always full. So I need to do a better job at making sure I'm getting, plenty of quality water in each day. I do exercise, I do lift weights. I do challenge my body physically to be able to keep up with, the requirements of my work, doing all manual manipulation in the office. And I do try to be mindful of my stress. I think being a business owner, that's a tough one because it's not only my stresses that I carry, but I think I often carry, maybe that goes back to that female thing too. At times, I find myself carrying the stresses of my team with me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. I can only imagine you have so many people there.
Yeah.
Well, the final question I always like to ask all of our guests is one that's more around mindset and how you live your life. So, in the past few years, as you've been a business owner, as you've taken on such a big endeavor, I'm sure that you've exceeded your own wildest dreams in many ways and have a life that you couldn't necessarily envision when you got out of school and you started this journey. So, what would you say is one way that people can create a life that's better than their dreams?
Wow. What a question. Okay, two things. I think focusing on the now is really important. So as I look back in my mind when you ask that question, while I always had goals set on paper, in my mind, it was one day at a time to do better and better and better. And then from there, it evolves. So I think that's really important is, to focus on the now. How can you do what is here now the best that you can do it? And then secondly, to avoid worrying and paying so much attention about other people. So that's another thing that can be really hard as an entrepreneur and as a business owner and a leader is judgment. So everyone has an opinion on how you can do things differently and better and how they should be, how things should look, in their eyes. And you have to, continue to learn as a leader, continue to grow as a leader, read as much as you can about how to be the best leader and how to offer the best in your area of expertise, and then to run with that and try to keep what everyone else is doing, not at the forefront of your decision making or your thought process throughout the day. It's important what I'm doing and what I can do and what's best for me too.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we'll link the Winchester Institute below. Is there anywhere else where people can find you or anything else that people should know about your amazing company?
Yes, thank you. So we're located in Dublin, Ohio. And yes, our website is a great place, comprehensive place to go, thewinchesterinstitute.com. We welcome new patients. We, as we talked about this morning, treat patients of all ages. And myself, our doctors, and our service providers, and our administrative team too are all committed to providing the most seamless experience possible and the highest level of quality care when patients come in.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Dana. I've loved this conversation. I appreciate you educating all of us and providing so much value and insight into the incredible work that you do. So thank you so much.
Yes, Emily, this was great. And I always enjoy these things. They really help remind me about my passion in this industry and taking better care of our patients. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to the I Heart My Life show. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with 3 friends or post about it on social media using the hashtag I Heart My Life show. And don't forget to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. It really does help us spread the movement far and wide. Remember, everything you desire is possible. Keep believing in your dreams and taking action.